Welcome to Proven and Probable. I'm your host, Maurice Jackson. Joining us for a conversation is Judson Coulter, the CEO and Director of Rover Metals. Mr. Coulter, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Maurice. Having me back, actually.
Well, glad to have you back on the program. We last spoke in January of 2018, and since then, Rover Metals has completed their IPO and implemented a methodical process of building an exploration company that is positioning itself for success from land acquisitions, permit approval, OTC listing, option agreements, and completed the first phase of the 2018 exploration program. But before we begin, Mr. Coulter, for first-time listeners, who is Rover Metals?
Rover Metals, we are a precious metal, and specifically gold. Gold is our current focus. We're a precious metal exploration company, and we're co-listed in the United States as well as Canada on the Toronto Venture. We're currently operating in and around Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, one of the most mining-friendly jurisdictions in Canada and for North America, for that matter. And I say that just because that's where our diamond mines are. That's historically where several of our gold mines have been. It's really the primary employer in the Northwest Territories. Outside of government, mining is it.
Share with our audience why Rover Metals has received so much interest here of lately.
I think that's a two-pronged sort of answer. I think first off is just credibility. I mean, going back 2 years, especially we've done the January 2018, but we also did a 2017 call with you, Maurice. And I think, going back to 2017, if you listen to that interview, and we talked about how we were going to go public and how we were going to drill our resources and how we were going to look to add new resources in the similar area code of Yellowknife. We've done all that. And so I think, our shareholders are loyal, our existing shareholders. We've got a lot of credibility with them. We get a lot of word of mouth. And I think that goes a long way in a market that's really just, can be a little bit oversaturated in the junior mining space with, which projects or which management teams do you back? And I think, really that we've gotten recognition for that now. And I think that's really helping to drive our current success. If you look in the market, just our daily trading volume, and, just our current market cap. And the second prong sort of answer to that question is really, I think, just the projects themselves. We've got the Cabin Lake project is really what the market is asking for, and that's why we bought it. I mean, we've got this, what will be considered when we drill it for the first time in 30 years, a high-grade gold historical resource that has got those super high grades that, the market wants to see as, recognition that this really could be the next gold mine in the area that we're in. Not to mention the project itself has got all the things you want. It's got the infrastructure around it, the hydro, roads, all the accessibility and proven area of just past producers. So, I think it's a credibility of the management team and the assets that are really starting to speak for themselves, and also just awareness that we are pretty near drilling in the not too distant future. So I think people are wanting to get involved.
Judson, what is the driving thesis for Rover Metals in regards to the Cabin Lake Gold Project?
The driving thesis is not changed. It's the same thesis that in the late 1980s they started drilling. There's a project called the Lupin Gold Mine that produced from 1983 to 2003 in the north, and it's an iron formation, super high-grade gold. And so the thought at the time was to go and find another one, and that's what they thought they had here. This is when Caminco and Freeport-McMoRan and then Aber Resources, that's what they thought they had here. And they drilled 7,500 meters of at or near surface iron-hosted high-grade gold. And the only reason they stopped is because somebody found kimberlites a few years after, and the diamond boom in the territories began. And so this project just kind of sat on the back burner as a result of that. Aber Resources, the owner at the time, of course, went on to find the kimberlites at Diavik. So and that's kind of really sort of some of the color on why this project is just now kind of coming back to life.
Talk to us about the business acumen here. When and how was Rover Metals able to acquire the Cabin Lake Gold Project in such a highly contested and sought-out district?
No, I mean, it wasn't on paper, it wasn't easy, but I just figured when we looked at the business case, which was, there was a few things, and I'll go into detail on that. I figured that, listen, with a little bit of just rolling up your sleeves and getting up there and meeting the right stakeholders and, and just recognizing that this is an area that needs new mines and new projects. I didn't think it would be like other areas in British Columbia, for example, where BC trying to get First Nation to endorse it can be very difficult. I mean, there's so many competing industries that people can, really make a way of life in a jurisdiction like British Columbia, whereas, knowing a little bit about the Northwest Territories, this is 2 years ago, knowing that this mining is a big deal up there and people want to see projects succeed. So, when we went into the Cabin Lake project, we knew we had to get a couple things in order to get permits. We knew we had to get our neighbors, the First Nations, so like the Colecho First Nations, on board. But we also did our homework and knew that the Colecho had previously worked with Fortune Minerals as well as Nighthawk Gold to get them started and going. So we figured that there was a framework in place, and when we got to it, there was a framework in place. There was a government that had been formed, the Colecho government, and a land use formal plan to work within for applications, and so once we got to it, it ended up only being 4 months to get it permitted, and I think it seemed to keep getting easier for us, and it ended up being a decision that looks like there was the right one to make.
Regarding mineral rights in your project portfolio, are there any reversionary interests?
In terms of NSRs, that kind of thing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is. There's a 1.5% NSR that we've got viable down to a 0.5 percentage point for $250,000 per quarter percentage. That's Canadian dollars.
And does Rover Metals own the mineral rights outright 100%?
That's correct. Yeah, not just at Cabin Lake, but at the Cabin Lake group of projects. The claims themselves are 10 kilometers apart, so there's 3 of them. For the entire group of projects, yes, we have the 100% mineral right interest.
Let's fast forward to 2018 and discuss your exploration program. What were the results from that program, and how has that improved the confidence in the gold project?
Yeah, it helped us to better track. What we did is to better track the iron formation. So what we did was we spent the 6 months from March when we acquired the project into October, really to digitize all the historical records. So at the time in the 80s, it was meticulously kept, it was handwritten. So we digitized 7 banker boxes of data as well as 3 map boxes. And then we, put that in a GPS and, tag the colors and everything else. And then what we wanted to do to follow on with that data was to run, a current modern day geophysical program, and there was a lot of options to us to do it in a really economical manner, but also to do it in a very detailed, tight formation using a drone. And because the mineralization occurs at or near surface, as well as the iron formation itself being at or near surface, it really showed up well on the magnetic survey that we flew over the property. And so by interlaying the drill results as well as the mag survey, our geologist was able to get a better interpretation of the iron formation throughout the project, and that really set the stage for where we were going to put the drill when we get to drilling this year in 2019. It actually beyond just the iron formation, what we also realized about the project is the outcropping on either side is quartz, and historically, the quartz had never been tested for mineralization, and so we also did a geochemistry program in October. And what that showed us is the ppm and ppb reading of gold from the quartz outcrop area suggests that that's also very likely to be a host for gold on this project, and it's never been tested historically. So, that's the excitement of 2018 and what's led into, so since October, we've then planned, our callers for the 2019 drill program, which was always planned to be between March and the end of April. And we're still trying to hold to that deadline. We've got the callers ready to go. I mean, right now, I think what we're needing to do to really just start drilling is just a small financing that we'll be talking about probably in the coming week or two here.
So to review the value proposition we have before us, this is potentially an open pitable early stage brownfield exploration gold project with historical high grade resource next to a new cobalt gold mine. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's one thing I didn't touch on is the actual historical resource itself. That's 85,000 ounces. There's the part of that is I would say unconfirmed in terms of what our current standards allow us to document as a historical resource. So what we're allowed to document, in press releases and everything else, is 50,000 ounces of roughly 10 to 12 grams per ton. The rest of that 35,000 ounces was never signed off by a QP, but it is in the Norman database in the Northwest Territories, and it's in the areas of the Andrews Zone, which we've documented. So honestly, there was part of internally, we believe that that's a resource, and we're going to do the work we need to do under 43-1 standards to take that other 35,000 ounces and get it compliant. But I mean, from our side internally, we see this as an 85,000 ounce a resource of 12 grams per ton on average. When we talk about it publicly, we have to say 50,000 from a historical resource perspective. But yeah, and you're absolutely right that we're 20 kilometers away from what's looking to be Canada's first cobalt mine. And the reason I say that is this project's been 20 years in the making. It's at the feasibility stage, and I believe they're really just looking to raise the capital to get to work. It's an open pitable cobalt mine, but the good news is it's actually cobalt gold bismuth. And so there is a gold processor that's going to be built 20 kilometers from us. So, I mean, what better news could you possibly have when you're, developing an at-surface resource, right?
The location in of itself makes the opportunity quite interesting, but to have open pit to me is icing on the cake. Is the goal to sell the project or develop into a commercial scale mine?
Definitely the goal is to sell it within the next 3 years. And so I want to put $10 million in the ground and let's get this wrapped up and sold. End of story.
What can you share with us regarding the infrastructure?
Infrastructure. So what you see in Yellowknife right now is what's going to be coming in the pipeline in the next 2 to 3 years is the Pine Point zinc mine is going back into production, and that's a Cisco. And part of that is twinning the Tolston Hydro Dam and bringing that into Yellowknife itself, as well as Hay River. And there's going to be federal funding allocated as well as territorial to doing an environmental study that should be announced in fairly short order this year. And from that environmental survey, really that's going to lead into twinning that power project. And what that does is that upgrades Yellowknife. When Yellowknife is upgraded, the Strut and Snare Hydro Dams, which are located within 5 kilometers of Camp Lake, one of our claims, that's part of the Cabin Lake group, that power becomes excess power now. And so all of a sudden that frees up for the future viability of really selling the project, because now you've got excess power sitting right there 5 kilometers away. How good is that?
Switching gears, let's discuss the team that will make the Cabin Lake Gold Project come to fruition, beginning at the top. Who is on Rover Metals' board of directors and advisors?
Keith Minty on our board of directors. Keith's put mines into production around the world. Let's just talk about a Canadian one because it's closer to home. So North American Palladium was a project that Keith worked on. He was also a mine engineer at Giant Mine itself, the gold mine that we've talked about previously in Yellowknife. So that's one great example of the leadership on our board of directors. Another gentleman, Lou Cavella. Lou is actually the geologist from our Cabin Lake project that worked with Grant Thomas at Iowa Resources on the exploration program here in the late 80s. And so who better to help with furthering this project than the geologist that was last involved with it 30 years ago. Not to mention, no one probably knows the rocks and the geology of the Northwest Territories better than Lou Cavella, being co-founder of Cavella Bryant and Associates, which is now, of course, Aurora Geosciences in Yellowknife. So, I mean, great guy to have for a northern project. Another one of our from a permitting and political perspective. We have Stuart Hodgson's son, Eugene Hodgson. Stuart Hodgson was the commissioner for the Northwest Territories. So another great guy for a northern company to have on the team. We've also got Salim Tirani. Salim's worked internationally in mergers and acquisition, has raised over $500 million, not just for mining deals, but just for M&A transactions. Worked in Moscow, Russia for 30 years. Now he's back in Vancouver, where he's from. So, that's a pretty good high-level summary of our directors. Our advisory team, the top of that list, probably doesn't need that much of introduction, but I will make one for him. Turkey Angus. Tukey, of course, last year was involved with the mega sale of Arizona Mining to South 32, the subsidiary of BHP. That was an all-cash deal. The guy's got multiple billion-dollar tombstone transactions. I believe Nevsum was up quite high up there last year as well. It closed on New Year's Day. So, Tukey's there, as an advisor that really will longer term help us in 3 years get this project sold, which is really the value proposition that we're bringing to our shareholders.
How about management? Let's start with the CEO, Judson Coulter. What makes him qualified for the task at hand?
Well, let's start with a little company called Dolly Varden Silver. I was the co-founder of that in 2010. It had 500,000 ounces of silver. Today, I think there's well over 50 million ounces, and a good part of that is indicated. So we're doing it again. We're doing it with gold this time, and potentially silver. Where we are, as you mentioned earlier in the call, we are looking to expand in the U.S. With U.S. growth, and so that means a U.S. project. It could be silver, it could be gold. Backing up before Dolly Varden, worked just within private equity, raising money for startups. So, I'm kind of a startup guy. Rover's still getting out of that startup stage. That's my passion, is raising startup capital. And, with Rover, we've raised $3 million across all my deals. I think I've raised about $25 million for every sort of startup that I've been involved with. I've been part of a management team that's raised that collective. That's my collective total. So we're looking to bring some more juice with that network into Rover as we move forward. Yeah, let's go into the rest of the team. And so we've got Ron Wu as our mine engineer. Ron's been with me since basically 2014. Helping to find the right projects for Rover. And, Ron's got a great background. Not only is he a mine engineer, he's got an MBA from UBC. He's worked for some great companies, Leadcore, their mining division, Walter Energy. Started his career at Hunter Dickinson, which is an approach that we use, the Hunter Dickinson style approach to really acquiring projects, kind of summarizing it again, infrastructure, proven location, easy permitting, that kind of thing. So great pedigree, good part of the team. And then we've got Raul Sanibria. He's our VP Exploration, originally from Madrid, younger guy like myself as well, and Ron. And he's got a lot of horsepower, and he's a pretty driven guy. He's worked in Colombia. He's worked in BC in the Golden Triangle. He's worked in the Yukon with Victoria Gold, and now he's working with us in the Northwest Territories. So pretty well-rounded management team for the size of company that we are. Honestly, at this point, I don't think we need to layer any new management in. We've got a CFO shop as well that we're using. to cover really our CFO resources. So yeah, I mean, I think for us, we've got the scalability with our management team to add new assets without having to do any hiring, probably for at least a year, and it puts us in a pretty awesome position to grow the company, which we want to do to the 20-25 million market cap level.
Let's discuss some numbers. Please share your capital structure.
We've got 47 million shares out today. That's our issued and outstanding common shares. There are warrants out there. We've got 10 million warrants at 20 cents and 10 million warrants at 25 cents.
How much cash and cash equivalents do you have?
Treasury sitting today around 450,000, and there's been some prepayments for upcoming work commitments regarding our exploration plans for this year, as well as just, as I'd mentioned, we're doing a lot of our growth in terms of our marketing and our shareholder base in the United States. So I think our prepaid balance, if you were to look at that as of today, should be around 200K. Just in terms of for events, as well as I mentioned, exploration planning. So if you add that back to our cash position, around 650 in current assets, not too shabby.
What is your burn rate?
Our burn rate's about $30,000 a month, and that just includes all in. We purposely don't carry an office in this market, so we're a bootstrap company. We have home offices, and then we're on the road a lot. We've got an exploration office that is free from our exploration partner Yellowknife, so that's really where a lot of the hard work gets done. And then there's just no corporate office. I don't feel that we have a need for that currently. So that helps.
How much debt do you have?
We have some trade payables of, I think it's roughly 40,000 that we're going to settle in shares. So outside of that, we've got 25,000 in payables on top of that we're going to pay in cash. And that's just some exploration legacy from last year, some from that program. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I mean, really 25,000 hard, because 40,000 of our payables is going to go just be settled in equity, and that's the terms we've negotiated with these vendors. So there you go.
Who is financing the project, and what is their level of commitment?
Just sophisticated mining investors. It's been high net worth accredited investors to this point. That will continue until we become a 10 million market cap company plus, because we're just still not able to access institutional funds. And that's fine. And so I think, honestly, if we do everything that we hope we're going to do, in the next drilling phase, which we hope is in the next sort of 60 to 90 day window here, we should be a 10 million market cap plus company and well on our way into institutional money.
Who are the major shareholders?
I'm a major shareholder. I've been seeding Rover, not just with time, but my own money, since really inception in 2014. Tukey Angus, who we mentioned as being an advisor, I think he's currently our third largest shareholder. And then it really starts to break down to smaller tranches, but there is a notable name on the list. Oshawa, the chairman of GT Gold, he's a relatively large shareholder. But management, included Ron Wu. Ron's also seeded this company, and so I think Ron's probably fourth largest shareholder. And Keith Minty's a large shareholder, and some of our other board members. So percent of our outstanding shares is owned by insiders, management, board, and that's a good thing, because that means our shares are tied up for 3 years and bled over a 3-year plan, and that's as it should be.
Judson, based on the data available, what type of value proposition do we have in comparing?
Well, that's the market price. Let's just say, I think it should be $8.5 million just on what we sit on today. Like, that's my personal opinion. I think we're undervalued. But that's just the reality of resource stocks in North America. So we're gonna do what we need to do to take that historical resource and bring it up to current standards, as well as to just extend where they stopped drilling and to show that this really is a multi-million ounce potential asset. I think we can get there with the drill program that we're planning. We're planning roughly a 1,000-meter program, and I think the value proposition is we're at a 3.5 million market cap today. I think we're going to take it to 10 to 15 million, in the next 6 months. Hold me to that.
I certainly will, sir. Multi-layered question here. What is the next unanswered question for Rover Metals? When can we expect a response? How much will the response cost? And what determines success?
That's going to be our Q1 or Q2 exploration drill campaign. I'm just going to caveat that is subject to a future success financing effort, which we hope to announce in roughly 2 weeks' time. That will lead into confirmation of the historical high-grade gold results, such as the open pit economics, expand upon the known mineralization in the iron formation, as well as to prove up a larger area play, and this is more Q2, Q3 work for the Slemon Lake and Camp Lake claims, which are located 10 kilometers northwest from Cabin Lake. And we'll fly that with an aerial V10 survey. And what that'll show is that the drilling we've done at Cabin Lake and the iron formation, really just those other two claims are, a district scale extension of the same geology, which everything that we've read historically shows us it is.
If investors want to get more information about Rover Metals, please share the contact information.
Yeah, absolutely. They can go to www.rovermetals.com. On there, you'll find our social media links, which are LinkedIn, Twitter, and our Facebook page. But we also do quite a lot of maintenance of our chat room on CEO.ca, which is just, the chat room is ROVR, and feel free to go there. So our social media channels really have it daily content. And we're press releasing every couple of weeks anyways, but a lot of our investors like really the daily updates on what's going on, in the Northwest Territory. So that's the best place to stay tuned. You can also submit to our mailing list, and we typically will do an email update every 2 weeks as well. And if you go to the bottom of the homepage on the website and just submit your email, that subscribes you to our email mailing list.
And last but not least, please visit provenandprobable.com for mining insights and bullion sales. You may reach us at contact@provenandprobable.com. Judson Coulter of Rover Metals, thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable.
Thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable. Remember to like and subscribe for more conversations with the most respected names in the natural resource space. Check out our website at www.provenandprobable.com. The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.